Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Monday the 25th of June 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the news and start with where is Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson? That's leading a lot of the headlines today because of the big political event happening, which is Heathrow expansion. Now, Parliament will give approval, is pretty much expected 100% to give approval to Heathrow expansion today after decades of delay and committees and advice and reports and everything like that. MPs will vote this afternoon on permitting a third runway at Heathrow. Now, the government is pretty much certain to win this. No one is expecting it to go any other way, mainly because many Labour MPs, as well as Conservative MPs, support it. And despite the fact there is some confusion, or rather there's some back and forth in the Labour Party, which I'll get to in a sec, it's largely expected the majority of backbenchers and prominent backbenchers will vote for the Heathrow expansion because of the economic benefits that has been outlined so clearly in so many reports and so many sessions over the past few years. Now, in terms of where is Boris Johnson, as Foreign Secretary, he's of course tied to the government in terms of policy, and he is, through collective ministerial responsibility, he has to adopt government policy and champion it. The problem is this is the same person who said previously that he once vowed to lie down in front of bulldozers to stop development of the Heathrow expansion. He's the MP for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, so he has got a real problem in the sense of everything historically he said has been anti-Heathrow, but he's now Foreign Secretary, has to be as part of a government which backs a third runway, which is going to be the government which approves, rubber stamps the Heathrow expansion. Where is he? Well, he's disappeared. He is off the grid. According to the Foreign Office, he is off somewhere abroad on urgent business. No one knows where he is because of security or something similar to that. And this was arguably, or rather reportedly, there's a lot of speculation that this was done on purpose so that Boris Johnson did not have to be there for the vote, and therefore somehow is not having to go through the process of voting against something which he so publicly voiced concerns and indeed very profoundly voiced opposition against. Now, in terms of the Labour Party as well, they're particularly split. There's a really interesting split on this in terms of Unite versus Momentum. Now, the Unite's obviously a huge union and supports the Labour Party. They are very much in support of the Heathrow expansion. Momentum, however, are very much reportedly of the opinion that on environmental grounds the Heathrow expansion should not be going ahead. Now, what that would likely mean is that Jeremy Corbyn will offer a free vote to MPs, and MPs will vote how they want in the Labour Party. But it's quite interesting. The Shadow Chancellor as well, John McDonnell, has always voiced opposition to Heathrow expansion because his constituency lies in one of the areas which is going to be affected. Labour Party has split on this as Boris Johnson from the government, it seems, at the moment. But certainly this will be leading the agenda today. This afternoon will be when the big vote actually happens. Next up, a little bit more division in the Conservative Party, this time over defence. Now, according to the Mail, Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson has threatened to sweep Theresa May from power if she does not agree to increase the defence spending in line with what he says his department needs. Now, this is a really bitter cabinet battle. There have been reports over the past few weeks, really, about this upcoming really unhappiness from Gavin Williamson over the defence budget and the extent of the cuts that have happened in the Defence Department. The headline really here is that Gavin Williamson is asking for an extra £20 billion to the Ministry of Defence. Otherwise, he says he's got the MPs to vote down the budget, which is happening in the autumn. Now, the budget is such a significant piece of legislation that, of course, if that happened, if 50 Conservatives, however many have been reported now, vote against the government on the budget, it is effectively de facto a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister, and therefore the Prime Minister would effectively be rendered unable to lead their party and therefore unable to lead the government. So really interesting stuff. This is undoubtedly a consequence partly of the announcement we had last week on the NHS of this huge £20 billion increase in funding for the NHS above inflation as well, so that's real-term spending. This seemingly opening the purse from the Chancellor has obviously got other ministers going, hang on a minute, if they can get 20 billion, why can't we? And if Gavin Williamson has decided to go for the more public route in terms of a showdown over the budget. Really interesting stuff. Gavin Williamson obviously was one of the key figures behind Theresa May's ascendancy to the Prime Minister position. He was one of the people integral to her leadership campaign. And so really the dynamics here will be very interesting to see over the next few days. Finally, Brexit is still on the cards, and one thing which is not apparently happening is the customs partnership. Now, this is something Theresa May has been championing as the option for the Irish border, option in terms of a customs arrangement for the UK and the EU post-Brexit. But apparently, well, it's been pretty much coming up to many boundaries, particularly from Brexiteer MPs, over it being too bureaucratic, not going to be effective, not going to work, not the right kind of Brexit. And in the Telegraph today, we have Andrew Leadsom, leader of the House of Commons, and a rival to Theresa May in terms of the Conservative leadership at the last leadership campaign, saying the idea that Theresa May's put forward for the customs partnership is bureaucratic, unwieldy, and impractical. Now, this comes as well in the same report that cabinet ministers, one cabinet minister has claimed Michael Gove, who's the Environment Secretary, Liam Fox, who's the International Trade Secretary, both big Brexiters, have taken plans for the customs partnership to the Abattoir, effectively completely destroyed it and rendered it unpractical. It's never going to happen. Now, what does this mean? This means that seemingly the movement is towards the max FAC option, the maximum facilitation option, which was the alternative customs plan. This is specifically also to do with the Irish border and trying to solve that. Now, this is the same plan that John Thompson, the Chief Executive of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, said would cost up to $20 billion a year to the UK. And it's all about using technology to prevent that hard border in Northern Ireland and using technology which isn't in place yet. Reports are that Remainers are getting behind the max FAC option, mainly because they see that the fact that the customs partnership isn't likely going to work, but also the technology isn't in place yet. It's such a long-term proposal, this max FAC option, that it might not ever happen, and therefore it might actually somehow lead to something which could be quite good, because it could be quite soft in terms of the final Brexit deal. No doubt some more lines on that as the weeks progress. Of course, the European Council Summit is this week. Not much supposed to be happening on Brexit, apart from a few disgruntled lines from the EU27, according to reports. But certainly that might bring to the fore as well this customs arrangement as well. One more thing I would say before we end is that have a look at Bloomberg's investigation they've done on Brexit pollsters and hedge funds. It's really interesting stuff. They've done this big 7-month long investigation to have a look at. It's on their website right now and came out this morning. But that's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest in what we're doing here on Core Politics and on our Facebook page right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your week. See you again tomorrow, round about 9 o'clock.